Good morning, everybody. Getting through the introduction is sometimes the biggest personal challenge. It's not a good start to have a surname like Bye. So thank you very much for the opportunity to address you in this conference. I would like to talk about the operational challenges we have in the current environment. And before I address that, I would just like to quickly talk around the Teekay structure when it comes to the Teekay Offshore Operations. We have just recently combined all offshore operations into TOO as a daughter to Teekay Corp. And this gives you an overview of the key figures. The offshore activities comprises of FPSOs and offshore logistics encompassing FSOs, shuttle tankers, flotels, and also a ocean-going tug fleet. And the reason for this change in the structure is to be able to meet the market and deliver complete systems for offshore production and logistics. The FPSO business is structured under Teekay Offshore Production, previously Teekay Petroleum. And going through the units we have in operation, it's 9 of them, 2 in Norway, Petroleum Varg and Petroleum Knarr. We have 4 units operating out of UK, the Foynhaven, the Banff, the Voyager, and the Hummingbird. In Brazil, we have the Ostras FPSO, which is a well-test FPSO, the Piranema FPSO. And together with our friends in Odebrecht, we have a joint venture where the Cidade de Itajaí FPSO is in operation. In addition to these 9 units, we have Petroleum 1 being modified for operations in Brazil on the Atlanta field, presently sitting in Rotterdam for an upgrade. And we have the Libra extended well test FPSO. It's a conversion done in Singapore with Jurong. I would like to also comment on the diversified operations. First of all, we are operating in both harsh environments in the North Sea. We have had this winter extreme weather passing through, and it's really escalation of the weather condition in the North Sea. We also are operating in more benign waters in Brazil. Another diversification is age of vessels. We have Petroleum 1 has been operating for 30 years, and we have new builds being put in operation now. The functionality and the complexity is very diversified. We are operating monohulls, ship-shaped units, as well as cylindrical-shaped units. We have turret mode operations, we have spread mode operations. We are operating in 3 regions, Norway, UK, and Brazil, and it's different legislative regime for the 3 regions. And we have a cultural issue. It is different cultures in Brazil, in Norway, and UK. One example is Norwegian doesn't really like detailed procedures, so they would have like to have high-level procedures. In UK, we see much more a desire to be quite detailed, and in Brazil, we can do without procedures. Yesterday, we had quite some interesting discussion on contracts. And the contracts we have is quite diversified. As an example, I think the lease and operate contracts we have in Brazil is roomed in one binder. I'm a quite old guy, so I measure it not in megabytes, but in binders. So I think one binder will encompass the contracts operating in Brazil. And on the other end of the scale, we have a lease and operate contract plus a construction and installation contract, and comprising of 4 meters of binders. In addition, there is quite some contract amendments as we extend field life or do other changes. So just trying to paint a picture of a very diversified business. Petrol 1, first purpose-built FPSO, completed in 1986. We have had 11 contracts with the last one. We have had 10 different operators, clients. The last contract we had was a contract that was originally planned and entered into for an 18 months service. It was an option to extend maybe six months or up to 2 years. We ended up sitting in that field for 10 years. So to plan and prepare for a good service is quite challenging when we see the changes occurring also for individual contracts. Another example is the Voyager Spirit. It's a marine hull design, a circular design. And the last one, as an example, the functionality of the Petrol Knarr is quite a different animal compared to the Petrol 1. It's very sophisticated topside, complex topside, I would say. We are doing 7 compressors. We have a fairly sophisticated gas treatment plant for gas export. We are extracting butane. We have a debutanizer tower. We're taking the condensate and we are dehydrating the condensate and spiking condensate into the gas. In addition, we have a quite sophisticated water injection system or water treatment system with a lot of filtration, even the sulfate removal plant. And when I'm trying to explain this to non-oil and gas people, I used to say that, the Petrol 1 is like a Harley Davidson 1980 model, comes with a tool bag with a wrench and a sledge, while the Knarr FPSO is a Ferrari with computer-based diagnostics and a lot of tools. I would like to start with safety. And we have had some safety challenges in the fleet. This is both personnel safety, but it's also related to gas releases. or hydrocarbon releases. And what we have been focusing on is very often jump to making action plans, set up programs for fixing this and that and the other. What we have decided now on a management, senior management level is to take a step back and have a deep dive into the root causes. So we have established a project group that's interviewing all our operations, collecting data, and are coming up with proposals for how to improve on our cultural stuff, our competencies and experiences, our systems, processes and procedures. And by mid-year, we will have a action plan tabled and have a broad discussion in the team to implement that in quarter 3 and 4. I think I would like to draw your attention also to some comments made by DNV in the conference in Singapore, which I think is very important in this context. You know, we have this vision of a pyramid, and if you can avoid having minor incidents like dust in the eye or something, everything boils up to then on the top level avoiding having any accidents. We really need to split the personnel part and the major hazard accidents or the risks into 2 different categories and work those in parallel. I think that is extremely important. Also, what's come out of this work up until now is to ensure that we support the operators working on board, even with all kinds of procedures, with all kinds of gas detection systems, maintenance systems, inspection systems. In the end, the ability of our operators to actually detect small seeps, small leaks, for example, from a valve stem or a tubing, and to catch that before it becomes a major hazard, that is really, really important. The reason why we are focusing on the safety side at present is that we also consider safety management and safety excellence in performance, as Mr. Chairman, you very, very well highlighted. We also think that is an important and the important part of operational excellence. So, advice number 1 in these distressed times, don't compromise safety.